Hi, everybody. Welcome to the IC Topic Chats for today. It's October 23rd. Can you believe it? Like a week from now will be um, Halloween. Well, a week and a day to be exact. And then we're in November, which is always so crazy for me because this time of year, it feels like we just started school. I've got two kids in college and one in high school. And it feels like we just started school and now it feels like it's nearly Christmas. It's a weird time of year. And I know you guys feel the same way. I think you can see my screen when I'm doing that, huh? Anyway, I'm want to make sure I can see everybody here. I'm very happy to be joined by some panelists today. We're going to be talking about generating new work with current clients. Um, a lot of us realize, as you can kind of see here, that uh, returning to your existing clients and continuing to work within your existing network is a great way to start and continue your consulting practice, which was the nexus, the beginning thought for this whole panel. Today, we are joined by four folks: Rebecca Garrow, sometimes known as Becky Garrow; Jessica Jarrett Metcalf, which sometimes we call Jessie Metcalf, and she goes by all of these things; Michelle Garrett, and Ann Price. And so we're super happy to have them here. One thing I wanted to do to get started before we start diving into everybody and giving a little bit of background, I wanted to share something that we found, which was in 2022, we had a survey that was completed for the ICTIG. And we asked the question, what percentage of new projects came from one of the following sources? And you see overwhelmingly, you have new work coming from existing clients, or right behind that, the second selection was direct referrals from existing or past clients and direct referrals from colleagues. So what that tells me is we should be probably working mostly within our existing network to find our new work. Not to say you shouldn't be doing other things. And I always go off on a tangent and talk about other things with your firm's own marketing efforts was the very last based upon the responses to this. But the key point for us to be focused on here is up in the top, the new work from existing clients. And I think that's an interesting finding. And I think it should give us pause to say, why are we responding to all those RFPs that seem to go nowhere? And we spend all our time on that. A lot of us are doing it anyway because we're looking for additional work. We're perhaps looking to replace work that's been taken away for various reasons. Um, and Anyhow, new work from existing clients. So with that, I'm going to pause my screen and I'm going to stop sharing and ask my colleagues to jump in here. I gave them some questions to think about, and I want to start with Becky because I know she wants to share some things, and then we're going to go around and we're going to let everybody introduce themselves. But Becky, the first question I asked for everybody was to provide a little bit of background for your practice, how you've been able to develop new and different work with your current clients. So Becky, why don't you start? Because I know you have some slides that you want to share as well, and I think you should be able to share without any extra permission. So go right ahead.
Thank you for removing permission restrictions from me. I love that. My slides are just related to the questions that you asked, so we can proceed in the format that you had envisioned.
Well, go right ahead and give a little bit of background then about your practice and how you've been able to develop new and different kinds of work from your current clientele.
Okay, let's see. You can see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay,
Yep.
thumbs up. Great. Hi, my name is Becky, and I'm from the 1900s. That's what I was born. And then in 2019, I decided to quit my job and start my own public health consulting business. So I started as an LLC, and then in 2022, I transitioned to an S Corp. So public health research and evaluation. So that's my practice background. So I actually went and crunched the numbers. So since January 2020, which is when or technically March 2020, which is when I incorporated my business and actually like filed the paperwork for a business structure in California. I've had 31 total clients. I'm defining client as somebody who's paid me at least $1,000. I've had a couple of smaller side jobs here and there, a couple $100. I'm not including that. You've paid at least $1,000. Of those 31 clients, today, 55% of them, so 17, are repeat clients. 25% are actually individuals that worked at an organization that I was consulting with. They left that organization, moved to another organization, and then hired me again to do some contractual or subcontracting work. So that's of those. Of these 31 clients, again, 55% were from my network and 11 were a referral from people in my network. Only three were new, and I directly pursued those clients. And ironically, today, even though it's a very small proportion of my business, so I'm from Sacramento, California, I'm in Los Angeles today doing a training for a new client. Of all of these, 90% were competitively like won. So I bid on the project and got it, or I was awarded just a direct. They said, "We have an ITB. Can you apply for this?" It was sort of like written for me and I got it. So it wasn't like somebody else hiring me to do it. And so what I will share is why has this been successful for me? Or wait, should I keep going or
I
should
don't
we
know.
let other people talk
I
about
said,
their clients
I,
now? We don't,
what do you feel like?
I'll
It's
stop.
this, we're okay. Full stop. How about that? How about we go to
Okay.
Michelle?
Yeah.
Michelle, why don't you give some of
Yeah.
your background I, and don't feel bad that you don't have slides because Becky's extra. That's okay. We love
Indeed,
that
I
about
don't
her.
have any
We
slides.
don't, well, I didn't expect you to put any together. So this is just fun and games here. That's how we roll.
Yeah, happy to roll with the fun and games. And I'm Michelle Garrett, also from the 1900s, leading Ripple Peace Research and Consulting based in Seattle. We work in the peace and social justice space, both domestically and internationally, and even more specifically within the niche of programs that work across lines of identity related tensions or conflicts. And my approach to developing ongoing work with existing clients is very simple. It's probably less sophisticated than what other colleagues will share. And the reason why I think it's worth sharing is because it works and because it may encourage you that simple approaches can also work if you use them consistently. So, um, I did a little math as well, not to the same glorious extent that Becky did, but I looked back over the last nearly 9 years since I relaunched my consultancy practice for the second time. And I realized that despite most of the projects being relatively short ones up until 2025 when that changed. But, most of those years, the projects were pretty short. But I believe I've only had four clients that did not repeat. All the rest of them involved some kind of ongoing consistency in working together. And honestly, I hadn't run those numbers before, so I was pleased. Felt like that was not a bad track record.
I think it's a great track record, and I think it validates everything that we're talking about today.
And I will save my other insights for the next question. So back to you, Matt.
Sure, thank you. Let's get Jesse in on this.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm going to apologize for the fact that I'm probably going to be bouncing on an exercise ball to keep my baby quiet for the majority of our time together. Once we're done recording, I'll bring her off camera and say hello. But
Jesse always makes sure that she lets me know that she doesn't have daycare during these sessions. So we never
yeah,
really know what we're in for, but we're always happy to have her here because that's how we roll. We love it. Go ahead.
Thursday's my no childcare day, but yeah, so you'll have to forgive my bouncing. Um, so my company is called Green Mountain Evaluation. I'm based in Vermont. I have been in business full time since 2021. And I didn't do any fancy number crunching, but I can tell everyone off the top of my head with confidence that all of my biggest contracts are with repeat clients. And I'll probably, I can dive more into the like how and the why and everything when we go to the next question. But ultimately, I think that, there's a lot of benefit to being able to build relationships with folks and have a really deep understanding of an organization and its mission and the work that they're trying to do. So it's, it has benefits, of course, financially to be able to, get repeat work, but I think that it also has a really positive impact on the quality of the work and the quality of the relationship, with those clients. Yeah, exactly. From the chat, it's like, you know, turnover can mean a lot of things, right? There's turnover from an evaluation perspective and turnover from the client perspective, but it's really great to have, that long-standing you know history with folks and be able to feel really comfortable with what they want and what they need, and even things as simple as having all of their style guides and having done reports with them before and things like that. So I'll dive more into the how and why in the next question.
Thanks, Jesse. And so let's round this out with our last panelist, Ann Price, who's joining us from the greater Atlanta area. You might want to turn on your
Yeah,
take
might
off the
want to
mute.
turn on
Yeah,
turn on my mic.
this might
Hey
be the first
everybody.
time she's ever been on Zoom, guys. She's give
Yeah,
her
it
a chance.
is. Yeah, I'm technically challenged. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, let's see. I have been in practice since 2004, so a skinny minute. Uh I was trying to remember where we started. I know inside office hours, I gave everybody the trajectory about like where we started. And somebody asked, oh, it was my son who's thinking about starting a business, asked me about like when you started, did you take everything that came to you? Well, probably yes. I think that is true for most businesses. But over the last couple of years, probably really the last 10 years, I've really leaned into my identity as a community psychologist and speak from that lens. And I think that has really helped. Um, yeah, so I think I would say that we always start with, connecting with clients, trying to figure out where their needs are. And because of that, we get a lot of repeat business, right? So, my quick and dirty math is of the 13 clients that we have now, 11 of them are repeat business. And the ones that we have that were not clients before, I have known in some way, like through my network, through going to meetings, whatever, and those are not necessarily evaluation projects, they're one-shot deals. So yeah, so I would just say, you know, maybe that's a little bit of a start and a little bit of a window into how we get relationships and and try to keep those relationships, really meeting them where their needs are and holding their hand throughout the process.
So I'm just going to say this to everybody. Feel free to let this become more organic, where I don't feel like we need to go through one at a time and say, okay, now you answer second question, and we'll go to each one. So feel free to let these questions roll. But the next question I had in the script, which I think some of you started to answer, is to what degree have you had success with developing new work? Why is this successful? And I might as well just throw in the next question, which was, what are some things to avoid? Anybody want to jump in and start talking? And you were already talking, so feel free to.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, because to me they're kind of related, right? So your first question, Matt, is what degree have you had success with developing new work from your existing clients? And I would say very successful, right? Once we can get a client, we usually keep them, right? At least for the life of the grant or whatever project they're working on. Why has this been successful? Again, like I started to say before, we really meet them where they are and try to help them move to that next level of success. So, for example, if we have a client who's not, collecting data at all, for example, we try to get them to start doing that in a very easy way. We're not going to overwhelm them by doing, some fancy dashboard to an organization that is just, starting out. So we try to like kind of move them along and think always capacity building, but at a level that they are comfortable with, right? Maybe stretching them a little bit. I think we connect on a real personal level. Relationships are always first with me. I have the bad habit of falling in love with just about every client that I have. There is no objective, relationship in my world. Yeah. And so that I think that makes a difference, especially if you're working in the South, folks. You do not talk business if you don't first, find out, what you have in common, connect with their kids, their favorite banana pudding recipe, whatever it is. It's always relationships first. And I would say feed and water your network, right? You never know when good karma will come back to you. The largest client that I have ever had is someone that I subcontracted with when I was first starting out 25 years ago, right? And then she ascended to the C-suite in her organization and hired us. So feed and water your network and do that, of course, sincerely. And then I would say we're successful because we understand that evaluation is always an organizational intervention,
So what
right?
do you mean when you say feed and water your clients and your community?
Yeah. So think about, your friendships, right? You probably have Facebook friends that you're only friends on Facebook, but you never talk to, or you have Christmas card friends or holiday card friends, whatever. Yeah, you want to stay connected. You want to remember their birthdays. You want to remember their anniversaries if you can. If you see an article that's related to their content area, you're going to share that with them. Hey, I thought of you, or I heard this podcast and I want to share that with you. You don't want the only time they ever hear from you is when you think, you're going to get something out of them. Does that make sense? It's a
Sure.
reciprocal relationship, just like any other relationship that you have. Yeah.
Well, let me open up the same question to Becky, Michelle, and Jesse. Feel free. Anybody, just jump in. This is just a panel discussion.
Sure, I can jump in terms of sort of what I do and what I avoid. I think first, as everyone has alluded to in some way or other, a lot of client retention depends on the relationship that you develop in the first place during the active collaboration. And I think interestingly, we each kind of have our own secret sauce for doing that. In my case, the focus on relationships means that I'm very careful about processes that honor boundaries and protocols and power differentials. And it seems that folks take notice. I've had a lot of feedback indicating that I seem to have developed a reputation as a person who's appropriately cautious with processes, and they appreciate that. The secret sauce may be different for others, but I think having a secret sauce in the relationship matters in the first place. And then when a project ends, maybe unlike some of you, when a project ends, I typically don't know whether the client will repeat or not, even though eventually most of them do. But I have a process that I follow consistently. So when the project is ending, I ask for their feedback. I take it seriously. I set myself a reminder to reach out in 6 months. The time frame is arbitrary, but 6 months works for me. I reach out in 6 months to check on how things are going on project related concerns. Just kind of circling back to some of the key needs and issues and asking how it's going, offering a sounding board chat if they have anything that they need to talk about. And then I make sure that I stay in contact. I add them to my email distribution list for new content sharing, which is quite different than a newsletter. I'll circle back to that in a moment. And I just make sure to stay in touch, around issues of common interest, LinkedIn, email, etc. It's very simple. And yet it consistently seems to work. A few things that I avoid personally, which is not to say that you shouldn't do these things, but avoiding them has worked for me. Two things. I don't send out a newsletter Like, as I mentioned, I send out new content updates, which kind of looks the same in that it's an email list to which I send email periodically, but it's infrequent, maybe 3 times a year at the most. And every time I send it, it's because there is a high value new piece of content or a resource to share. If I don't have something like that to share, then I don't send it. And that actually comes from my own experience as a person who really hates newsletters. As when I get newsletters in my inbox, it doesn't matter how much I love the person who sent it, I will not even open it because it doesn't feel like a good use of time. So like I want people who get my email to see those as a good use of time. So I tweak accordingly. The other thing I don't do is when I reach out intentionally and periodically to stay in touch, I don't directly ask for work, right? Unless there is a specific possibility that we've discussed that needs to be followed up on. But otherwise, I don't reach out and say, hi, how are you doing? Do you have any projects that you'd like me to take on? I reach out and genuinely ask, how they're doing as a person and how their organizational needs are unfolding. So for whatever it's worth, that's the very simple take on what I do and what I don't do.
So I want to recognize that Joe raised his hand, so he probably has a question for you. But before we go there, Christina Faulkner asked the question about, or asked if you could say some more about respecting processes, and she followed up by asking, "Do you mean that the client's existing processes, so that you're avoiding appending in a ship type of thing?" And so I don't know if you wanted to respond to that, or if you felt like you already have.
That's a good question. I actually feel like I should think about it a little while others are talking to try to put that more into words. So I'll do my best to think while listening and then circle back to it, if that's
Um,
okay.
and we're going to get, wait, while you're thinking, you might want to look at Rachel's question as well. Joe, did you want to jump in? And you're going to want to unmute.
Well, I was unmuted in Canada. No, I'm kidding. Thanks.
It's a
Good
different button. We must have a different computer layout over here in the United
That's right.
States.
Michelle reminded me of that I sent out a newsletter, and I'll give a specific example to AEA and the conference. This conference, it'll be my 4th year giving a workshop, crash course workshop on how to use Power BI. And as part of that, I get everyone's emails, and I'll send them pre-workshop material, like this is what you need for the workshop. This is what we're going to be going over. This is what we're not going to be going over. Here's some more about me. So I try to build those relationships before the workshop. And then every quarter or so, I'll just send them an update, like with what I've been up to. Those emails that I send to those workshop attendees, even years later, like almost everyone opens up those emails, and I'm still getting business from the New Orleans workshop that I did 4 years ago. And inevitably, they join. Some of them will join my how to use Power BI workshop, or newsletter, which goes out every week. And I think the secret is just being present in their inboxes. They don't even have to read my emails, but if they see my name pop up with that, and I'm giving a little tip about how to use Power BI, how to visualize data in some way, I think it just keeps me in the back of their minds that when they do need the type of help I offer, they like, Joe does that. And I hopefully am the first name that pops up, and they get in contact with me, and we have a fun little discovery call together.
Well, I want to pop back in. I can see an entire topic popping up here, Joe, Michelle, and around what are the best ways to kind of do these sorts of reach outs and connections to current, future clients. So thanks for sharing that, Joe, because I also have Kristen Cowart is starting to use Substack, and I think that's a whole nother thing. I don't want to go down the Substack rabbit hole here. I want to bring this back and give Becky and Jesse a chance to respond. So go ahead, Becky, Jesse, either one of you guys, pop in.
Go ahead, Jesse.
Sure. So I think there's a handful of things that come to mind. I'm going to see if I can remember them all that I wanted to bring up. I think a couple things folks have touched on already that are pretty simple along the lines of like, do good work. So folks, are interested in working with you again. Leave time and space during your meetings for relationships to develop and for conversations about what's going on in the organization beyond the specific scope of your project. So I always like to know, like, what do you guys have coming down the pike? What are you planning for next year? What types of things are you excited about in terms of the future of your organization? Because sometimes there are opportunities where they're applying for a grant or starting up a new project where I can offer some pro bono support. If they're applying for a grant, I'm often happy to help write the evaluation section or provide feedback if it's something where they're likely to need evaluation support if they were to get that funding. So leaving space for conversations outside of your specific scope, making sure to just like bring your whole self, be a real person. I think almost every one of my clients has met my my baby, like just having that relationship develop and leaving space for that during your meetings is important. And then two slightly more specific things that I try to keep in mind. One is in doing the work of a current project, I do try to kind of check in and think about what the life cycle of the product I'm working on might look like, right? So if I'm working on a data dashboard, is this something that, I try my best to do evaluation that's not going to get stuck in a file cabinet, that's going to be, something folks can utilize and is really action oriented. So if I'm working on a dashboard, how do they want to continue to update that data over time, right? Is it something where I want to help do some, training with their staff so they can update it internally? Is it something where they are interested in having kind of ongoing support for me to, continue updating that dashboard in future years and continue to do some of the number crunching for them? So I try to think about, where this product might go next. If it's something like, a dashboard that could have, kind of repeated cycles of data updates, and making sure that either, I provide the kind of support to help them take ownership, or if they're interested, have that door open to provide continued support, even if it's on a smaller scale, to keep updating those deliverables over time. And the one other thing I wanted to bring up is that I do try to keep an eye out for clients and organizations that seem like they might have multiple opportunities, right? So I can tell you that one of my repeat clients, it's not something where project one ended and then we started project two. Project two was with a totally different department within that organization, right? So sometimes when I am pursuing new work, I'll, try to learn as much as I can about the organization and think about, looking at their website and seeing, oh, are there, multiple departments within this organization? Do they have 3 staff members or 50 staff members? Sometimes a signal to me that it's a larger organization that might have evaluation needs in kind of multiple sectors is if we're doing our first initial contract and they want to write the contract because they have a legal department, right? And they have, the resources and the size to be, doing those types of things. And I really love having a variety of smaller clients and larger clients. But when I am getting to know an organization, that is something that I kind of check out and think about. And I do try to plant those seeds of, oh, I know we're doing X project, but I saw you also have, Y and Z going on. Please feel free to connect me with those other folks in your organization if you ever need evaluation support in those other areas. So that's something I try to keep in mind, is that repeat clients aren't always sequential for me. Sometimes there's, overlap where I'm working with different teams within the same organization.
Becky, you look like you're dying to get in here, so let's get you in here.
Dying? Settle down. So I'm going to answer the question. So why has this been successful for me? I do not have the honorable mentions that other people are saying. For me, a lot of my repeat clients, they're lazy. They don't want to go find another researcher. They don't want to find another evaluator. They've worked with me. Maybe they were thrilled. Maybe they were satisfied. It's easy just to hire me to do similar work. So number one for me, people are lazy. And there's I'm lazy too. I hire the same subs over and over, right? The three questions I ask myself if I decide if I want a client to be a repeat client or do I like you? Like, do I like the people I'm working with? One of the reasons I wanted to go into independent consulting was because I really wanted to dictate the types of projects and the type of people I was working with. I don't got to work with June from the finance department anymore or anything, right? Like I can choose who I'm working with. Do I like the work? And am I the right flavor for you? Because the Garo flavor is not like I'm not a wallflower, you know. So if you are looking for someone who is like patient and has that I don't know. Like when I hear Anne and Jesse talk, and you too, Michelle, you guys are just so beautiful and so graceful. And that is not me. I'm here to like rock it in, get it done. Like we're not doing a lot of meetings. Like I'm just here to do the work, right? And that is a flavor that people need. But if I can detect you're not going to need that, I know it's not going to be the right client to me. So if I can answer yes to those three questions, I'm going to treat you like gold. I'm going to prioritize you for meetings. I have a very heavy travel schedule. I will prioritize my repeat clients that I really like working with for travel. My time is better spent providing amazing customer service for my current and repeat clients than it is investing in non-paid overtime or overhead time trying to find new clients that may or may not work out. So the extra mile, the unpaid work, my marketing overhead, that goes to my current clients. I don't do newsletters, but I do encourage my clients to follow me on Instagram. So because I'm just doing mediocre research and evaluation work and my people are coming to me because I'm lazy, I stay in their mind by doing interesting things. So if you're following me on Instagram, you know I'm in LA right now. I already got a freaking parking ticket, less than 24 hours being here. I'm going salsa dancing. So I'm staying in people's minds just by kind of having an interesting life. The second question, Matt, you asked is what should you avoid? And so I classified this into two tiers. So tier one, you should avoid work that does not pay. Someone comes to me, can you do 8 focus groups for $500? No, you're out to lunch, right? So avoid work that doesn't pay because you're going to work so hard and invest so much time and energy and you're not going to get paid. And that's not actually a repeat client you want. You want people who are going to value your work. I would avoid clients that give you all of the responsibility, but none of the authority. As a sub, you should have the authority to make decisions over the work. They're hiring you because you're an expert. I personally avoid contracts where they want me to act like an employee instead of a contractor or a consultant. This happens to me frequently. They've lost staff. If I can come in and fill in some gaps for you, I can do that. If you want me to come in and like attend all your weekly staff meetings, no, I'm not doing that. And I also personally avoid hiring bad subcontractors. I can hire whoever I want. So I'm going to hire the best, right? So that's tier one. Tier two, and tier two comes after you have established your business. So tier two is don't hire or work with clients that suck for whatever reason. Your definition of suck is going to be different than my definition of suck. I would avoid clients that have projects with work that you hate doing. So there's lots of work I like doing. There's lots that I don't. So I just try to avoid I have a client right now who wants me to attend like my hate for meetings is so strong. Like I don't want to go to all these meetings. So that's just not the right type of work I want to do. 5 years ago, I might have done that. So again, this is tier two. Yeah. So those are my three things for tier one and tier two. I avoid clients that suck, work that sucks, and projects that require too many meetings.
Well, I've got you. Why don't you go ahead into the next question about subcontractors? What are things that, what are the lines that you draw with your subcontractors on their ability to generate work or work for you with your clients?
Hey, Matt,
Yes.
Yeah.
I know you want to talk about that, but can I piggyback on what Becky
Oh,
just
go
said
ahead, Ann.
about
No, that's
things
fine.
to avoid? Because, and I think Michelle had touched on that too. So I never assume that I'm going to get hired, even on multiple like year contracts. We always act like we have to, be hungry, right? We have to really, really want to please. So just assume that you won't get hired every year. Stay humble. Avoid sounds dumb, but it's really true. Missing deadlines and under delivering, right? I'm just notorious about that. Like, ask anybody who's on this call who's ever subbed for me. I am like, you will not miss deadlines. If we miss deadlines, it's because the client and we're going to ask for a change order. Like Becky, being treated like an employee, I once walked away from a 40-something thousand dollar contract, almost $50,000 contract, because I got tired of being treated like an employee. And mean and bossy. I don't do mean and bossy. Yep, that was it. Sorry.
Well, I started you off, Becky, so go ahead.
Yeah, now I'm kind of worried. I can be a little bit mean and a little bit bossy, so I'll
I meant
I think
clients, Becky.
I
Oh, okay.
think
I can okay.
uh you think that about yourself, but I think most of the people who are at this meeting probably kind of we like to have a little bit of Becky in us to set bits about boundaries, and you've said that
That's
before about your book
what I
with
said. Yep.
Melissa.
Art.
What's her last name? Melissa, the boundaries
Melissa
book.
Urban.
Urban, yeah.
Melissa Urban. Melissa Urban. Read her book. Okay. How do I handle subcontractors? So, number one, communication is key, both verbal and written. I am clearly dictating the parameters of the people that I am hiring, what they are and not permitted to do as a part of my subcontract with them. Any contingencies I have with the client that hired me, those get passed down. So all rules, regulation, like I make them hire those things too. And MJ is the exception here. I don't know if she's on the call. I only hire subcontractors that also have an evaluation business. I don't hire people that work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and do this on a side gig. Like I only hire people who are dedicated to being a consultant. I have found that like hiring friends and people who have jobs and want some extra cash, that doesn't work for me. I also established early on because sometimes I will bring together, because I'm a solopreneur, multiple subs and we will go on a contract together. And I see people in this chat who we've done that here before. We established from the beginning who's the prime, who is the prime person who is, because clients don't want to see here's like 8 of us applying for it. No, who's the prime? What's that one consistent voice? And then what I do, what I suggest to other people, that prime, you take 10% of the contract off the bat, right? You're going to be doing the invoicing, you're going to be doing the billing, you're going to be handling administrative work. So just communicate that up front. Who's the point of contact with the client? It's not always me. I have literally hired people before because my client wants someone to attend a ton of meetings and take notes. That's devastating to me. But I know other people are like, yeah, easy money. I'll do that. So they can do that. So I've hired people, they're the point of contact with the client, establishing roles and responsibilities, and also talking about authorship. So when we write our final reports, I want to acknowledge everybody as an author and everybody's business. So I actually have like a specific title page. I'll share it once this recording ends of how we like acknowledge all authors. And we talk about like role of authorship for any peer reviewed publications or reports going to the funder or client. So that's how I handle subs. Communication is key.
And Jesse, Michelle, do you want to jump in?
Probably just echo a lot of what Becky said, just having, clear roles. I usually am the FaceTime person with clients. Typically I've not gotten in a situation where I need to attend a million meetings. Sometimes I'll have someone, who's taking ownership of a particular piece, maybe be doing the FaceTime with that, but I am generally, on most meetings and the point of contact. And if there is a situation where, clients begin conversations with my subcontractors about new work, I just make sure that if I am the prime, that conversation, loops me in. And I make sure I'm clear with my subcontractors about that, that if they're asking about something that's kind of scope creep-esque, or they're asking about, a future contract, that I don't have other people making promises, on my behalf, and that I'm part of the conversation. And generally, if they're asking for new work because they really love working with one of my subs, I'm more than happy to involve that sub, in new work. But I definitely want to be part of that conversation if we're making commitments, on behalf of my company.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Oh, I think I agree with a lot of what's been said about general great practices in subcontracting. And when it comes to how that interfaces with client retention, I think again, for me, currently it looks pretty simple, maybe overly simple in this case, but um, one thing that helps is that any project that happens under my firm is led by me. Like Jessica says, I'm the main face contact person, which obviously limits my capacity to expand, but I personally am okay with that. And the advantage is it gives me a high level of quality control. Not to say that I don't make mistakes, but when I do, at least they're my own mistakes. And it's easier to rectify it. And some clear high expectations around variables that impact the client relationship the most, like deliverables will be on time 100% of the time, including informal deliverables, not just the ones that are in the contract, but the ones where we say in a conversation, I'll get this to you by Tuesday. Right? If we say we're going to get it to them by Tuesday, we will get it to them by Tuesday. And if that's problematic, then we're more careful about what we verbally promise the next time around. If we mess something up, we own it and we fix it. That actually did happen once. I had a client that was significantly unhappy with a particular move made by a subcontractor, again, in terms of process, which didn't align with the expectations that we had discussed at the outset. And honestly, I was pretty new to subcontracting at that point. I was scared, like, yeah, this is a problem. But we just owned it straight up. The subcontractor was great, acknowledged the substantive error. I acknowledged my failure of oversight on that point and took overarching responsibility for it. We fixed it, reversed the problem, made it go away. And the client really continued to trust us. They continue to be a repeat client and continue to express trust. So, yeah, very simple work in progress protocols on my part when it comes to subcontracting and client retention.
Well, I'm paying attention to the clock here, and I want to leave a couple minutes at least at the end of the hour for everybody to jump in and ask questions. So before we do that, I don't know what happened to Anne. All of a sudden, she left us somehow, or maybe she'll be back. Let's go through our at least three panelists that I can see here, and last kind of thoughts or advice you'd give to other consultants trying to start this idea of engaging in work with or engaging in the opportunity to develop new work with your existing clients. So Becky, why don't you kick us off?
So number one, just get clients. Don't worry about all this stuff we're talking about, value. It's just get clients. Get people paying you to do what you do, right? Don't worry about getting it perfect. Worry about getting it started. Get your first client, get your second client, get your 10th client, right? Once these start rolling in, you're going to get referrals because people are lazy and you're doing way better work than me. So it's going to be easy. Just be a top performer for your clients. Everything that Jesse and Michelle and both Michelle's are saying. Just worry about being a top performer and doing really good quality work. Be on time, be funny, be friendly. You're going to get clients. It's going to work out.
Last thoughts, Jesse?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything Becky's saying, I'd say, bring your whole self. Don't be super transactional and, get to know your clients and their organizations on a deeper level. So you've got an understanding of their needs and, where they're headed and how you might fit into that puzzle and do good work and be likable so they want to come back.
Michelle, last thoughts?
I would kind of circle back to, don't be afraid to keep it simple when you think about your client follow-up system. You don't necessarily need a big CRM software package or a lot of bells and whistles, although those things can be useful, right? If you have simple, genuine, consistent ways of keeping the relationship alive with clients, that will usually be enough.
Anne just rejoined us. She got kicked off for some reason, not sure what happened. But Anne, we're doing last thoughts, and then we're going to go into a couple minutes of just open conversation.
Yeah, that's so funny because I thought it was like, oh, Matt got cut off, and then like, oh, it's me. Did you? I just want to know, did anybody answer Sophia's question? Because she had a great question. Of course, now I can't see it in the chat. Um,
Let's
so
see.
where are you? Are you on the what advice do you have for other early career consultants?
Yeah, or just that and last thoughts as we wrap
Okay.
up.
Well, I mean, related to that, if you find Sophia's question great, is I don't know about everybody on the call, but I get pinged, by people asking for an informational interview or to learn more about consulting. My time for that is office hours. Use that. If you're interested in being a subcontractor, I'm not, I love you all, but I'm not going to remember you if you email me one time, right? I'm just not. It gets back to the feeding and watering clients. Just, stay in contact. I'm more likely to hire people that I have met at a conference or in this space. But yes, stay top of mind, whether that be your clients or people that you want to work with. You got to stay top of mind.
All right, well, I'm going to wrap up the recorded version so we can get some of these questions in here, and we can do that in the non-recorded version. But with that, everybody out in YouTube land, we'll see you later.